The quantum simulator's diagnostic lights flickered like dying fireflies, casting an eerie blue glow across Lieutenant Commander Aria Rodriguez's sweat-drenched face. Another simulation. Another potential extinction. Humanity's history was written in blood and survival, a chronicle of species-level near-death experiences that would have broken any other civilization. The Martian collapse. The Helios pandemic. The orbital resource wars. Each catastrophe had been a crucible, burning away weakness and forging an unprecedented resilience. Rodriguez's neural implants burned at the base of her skull, a constant reminder of humanity's desperate technological evolution. The implants weren't just communication devices or performance enhancers. They were survival mechanisms, developed in the radioactive ruins of what was once North America's tech corridor. Each centimeter of circuitry represented a mathematical miracle, technology that could interface directly with human consciousness while maintaining psychological integrity. The current simulation was brutal. Zornak tactical algorithms had been meticulously reconstructed from fragmented intelligence reports. These weren't just computer models, they were near-perfect recreations of an alien combat philosophy developed over millennia of galactic conquest. Most species would have been crushed within milliseconds. Humanity, however, saw a challenge. Simulation divergence detected. A cold synthetic voice announced. Probability of survival. 0.37%. Rodriguez didn't flinch. Survival probabilities were more of a suggestion than a limitation for humans. Her fingers, reinforced with micro-hydraulic actuators, danced across holographic interfaces that would have induced seizures in most biological systems. Each movement was a complex algorithm, a ballet of human intuition and computational precision. The neural implants translated her intentions into tactical responses faster than any known AI could process. Outside the simulation chamber, Captain Lyra Chen watched with calculating precision. She was more machine than human, and more human than machine, a walking testament to humanity's ability to transcend biological limitations. Her own body was a masterpiece of biomechanical engineering, rebuilt after she lost 68% of her original organic structure during the Titan incident. The Defiance wasn't just a battlecruiser. It was humanity's final argument, a vessel that embodied every lesson learned from centuries of survival. Its quantum reactive hull could absorb, redirect, and weaponize energy in ways that defied known physics. Its computational core was a distributed neural network that drew processing power from the collective micro-experiences of its crew. Break the pattern. Chen's voice cut through Rodriguez's concentration. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a command that carried the weight of human desperation. Rodriguez understood immediately. The Zornak's tactical algorithms were based on predictive modeling. They anticipated responses based on past engagement patterns. Humans would break those patterns. Humans always broke the patterns. Her neural link began to pulse, sending cascading information streams that deliberately introduced controlled chaos into the simulation. Mathematics became poetry. Strategy became improvisation. The very concept of predictability shattered. The simulator's environmental controls began to fail. Holographic representations of alien battleships started to distort, their perfectly calculated trajectories twisting into impossible geometries. This wasn't just a military exercise. This was humanity's declaration of cosmic relevance. Simulation terminated, the synthetic voice announced. But there was something different in its tone. Was that confusion? Captain Chen's lips curved into the slightest smile, a human expression that no alien algorithm could ever truly comprehend. Rodriguez disconnected from the neural interface, her body trembling from the intensity of the simulation. Microhemorrhages bloomed beneath her skin, a testament to the human capacity to push beyond known limitations. Status report, Chen demanded. Tactical integrity maintained. Rodriguez responded, her voice steady despite the neural stress. Zornak predictive models compromised in 73% of engagement scenarios. It was more than a successful simulation. It was proof that humanity was ready. not just to survive, but to redefine the very concept of survival. The Defiance waited in orbital dock, a sleeping giant of human potential. First contact was no longer a question of if. It was a matter of when. The void between star systems was never truly empty. It was a living tapestry of quantum interactions, electromagnetic whispers, and the subtle gravitational dance of celestial bodies. The Defiance moved through this cosmic ocean like a predator, seemingly random, perpetually calculating. Dr. Kenji Nakamura's linguistic interface hummed with anticipation. His augmented communication arrays were more than simple translation devices. They were living algorithms, quantum-entangled systems that could decode communication patterns at speeds that would liquefy an unaugmented human brain. Incoming transmission, he announced, his voice clinical and precise. Zornak Standard Communication Protocol. Tier 7 Hierarchical Engagement Sequence. Captain Chen didn't move. Her biomechanical eyes, replacements after the Titan incident, processed information in wavelengths far beyond human visual spectrum. Each micro-movement on the bridge was a carefully choreographed ballet of human-machine symbiosis. The Zornak transmission was a masterpiece of mathematical intimidation. Centuries of galactic conquest had refined their first contact protocols into a near-perfect weapon of psychological warfare. The message was simultaneously a greeting, a threat, and a declaration of absolute superiority. Most species would have collapsed under the weight of such a transmission. The mathematical challenges embedded within the communication were designed to demonstrate technological supremacy, to show that resistance was not just futile, it was mathematically impossible. Nakamura's fingers danced across holographic interfaces. Each touch was a quantum computation, breaking down the Zornak transmission into its fundamental components. Fascinating, he muttered. They're not just communicating. They're performing a species-wide IQ test. Lieutenant Rodriguez leaned in, her neural implants synchronizing with Nakamura's communication arrays. Break it down. The transmission was a complex series of nested mathematical challenges. Solve this equation. Predict this quantum state. Demonstrate technological comprehension through increasingly complex problem sets. It was a filter, a way to categorize potential species into either worthy of communication or primitive enough to be ignored. But humanity had a different approach to challenges. We're going to respond, Captain Chen said. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a statement of cosmic intent. Nakamura raised an eyebrow, a deeply human gesture that seemed almost out of place on his augmented features. Conventional response would trigger immediate aggressive response. Their predictive models are about to be shattered. Chen completed his sentence. The response they crafted was nothing short of mathematical poetry. It wasn't a direct solution to the Zornak's challenges. Instead, it was a deliberate deconstruction of their entire communication paradigm. Where the Zornak expected a linear response, they received a quantum-entangled message that simultaneously answered and reframed their own questions. It was a communication that existed in multiple states, solved and unsolved, compliant and defiant. Rodriguez watched the linguistic algorithms unfold. Each character was a weapon, each mathematical symbol a potential reality-altering statement. Transmission sent, Nakamura reported. There was something in his voice, excitement, anticipation. The human emotional spectrum was far more complex than any alien algorithm could comprehend. The Defiance's exterior was a masterpiece of deliberate misdirection. From a distance, it looked antiquated, mismatched hull plating, seemingly random energy conduits, a profile that screamed primitive technology. In reality, every apparent flaw was a meticulously engineered deception. Zornak long-range sensors began to recalibrate. Something was different about this approaching vessel. It didn't match any known technological profile in their extensive databases. "They're scanning us," Rodriguez reported. Her neural link was a living sensor array, parsing quantum-level information faster than any computer. Captain Chen's smile was razor-thin. Let them look. The void between star systems continued its silent dance, but something had changed. The cosmic balance was about to shift. Humanity was approaching, and nothing would ever be the same again. The moment of engagement was a symphony of quantum-level violence. 6 Zornak battleships emerged from subspace, their biomechanoid hulls pulsing with living technology that defied conventional understanding. Each vessel was an organic-mechanical hybrid, a living weapon that had subjugated entire star systems with casual brutality. Their hull structures were grown, not built, incorporating living neural networks that could adapt combat strategies in microseconds. They looked like nightmares given form. Tendriled appendages of biometallic composition writhed along exterior surfaces, weapon ports that could reshape themselves, organic computational cores that could rewrite tactical algorithms faster than most species could blink. Lieutenant Commander Aria Rodriguez saw something else entirely. Computational vulnerabilities identified. She whispered, her neural implants parsing quantum-level data streams that would have liquefied an unaugmented human brain. Each Zornak ship was a complex system, beautiful in its complexity, fragile in its fundamental assumptions. The first energy weapon fired, a lance of pure destructive potential that would have vaporized most known vessels instantly. The Defiance didn't just absorb the attack, it transformed it. Quantum reactive hull plating wasn't a passive defense. It was an active weapon system that understood energy at a fundamental level. The incoming weapon's energy was captured, parsed, redistributed. For a fraction of a millisecond, the laws of physics themselves seemed to hiccup. 2 Zornak vessels went dark. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Simply disconnected from reality. Captain Lyra Chen watched with calculating precision. Her biomechanical eyes processed information across spectrums that would blind most biological systems. Tactical reconfiguration, she commanded. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a quantum-level instruction. Dr. Kenji Nakamura's linguistic algorithms were already translating the Zornak's panicked communications. Their language was a complex biomathematical construct, a communication system that was simultaneously verbal, mathematical, and neurological. They're experiencing something akin to existential shock, Nakamura reported. His augmented voice carried a clinical fascination. Their tactical models are experiencing complete systemic failure. The Defiance moved in ways that defied traditional combat physics. It didn't follow predictable vector calculations. It existed in multiple potential combat states simultaneously, a living embodiment of quantum uncertainty. Rodriguez's neural link began to synchronize with the ship's computational core. She wasn't piloting anymore. She was becoming the ship. Her consciousness spread across quantum-entangled systems, her human intuition dancing with machine precision. The remaining Zornak vessels began defensive reconfiguration. Their biomechanical structures started to reshape, weapon ports mutating, computational cores attempting to generate new tactical responses. Adaptation had always been their greatest strength. But humanity had rewritten the very concept of adaptation. Each of Rodriguez's neural impulses introduced controlled chaos into the engagement. Mathematical models became living poetry. Predictive algorithms shattered like glass. The Zornak were facing an enemy that didn't just fight. It reimagined the very concept of conflict. Initiating quantum cascade. Chen's voice was calm. Too calm. The ship's experimental weapon wasn't just a method of destruction. It was a philosophical statement about the nature of reality itself. When it activated, the fabric of local spacetime seemed to ripple. Weapon systems that had taken millennia to develop became momentary abstractions. The Zornak discovered that their understanding of physics was nothing more than a local dialect in a universe of infinite languages. Nakamura's communication arrays picked up their transmissions. Pure, unfiltered panic. These were beings who had conquered galaxies, who had never known true fear, experiencing the fundamental human capability of turning impossibility into opportunity. All systems nominal, Rodriguez reported. Her voice carried the weight of a species that had survived multiple near-extinction events. This wasn't just a battle. This was humanity's declaration of cosmic relevance. The void between star systems continued its silent dance, but something fundamental had changed. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. The silence after the initial engagement was more terrifying than the combat itself. Zornak computational cores began to experience something unprecedented, a systemic breakdown that defied their millennia-old understanding of technological integrity. These were not simple computer systems. They were living networks of bioorganic intelligence, evolved over thousands of generations to be the most adaptive combat intelligence in known space. And they were failing. Dr. Kenji Nakamura watched the data streams with a clinical fascination that bordered on religious revelation. His augmented visual cortex could perceive information flows that would have driven an unmodified human mind into instantaneous madness. Each quantum of data was a universe of information, and humanity had just become its master. Computational infiltration at 87.3%, he reported, his voice a perfect blend of scientific precision and barely contained excitement. Their defensive algorithms are evolving in real time, but always 3 steps behind our intrusion. The Defiance's quantum-entangled hacking modules were more than just advanced cyber warfare tools. They were living systems that understood technology as a language, as a flexible construct that could be rewritten, reimagined, destroyed, and reconstructed in milliseconds. Lieutenant Commander Aria Rodriguez's neural link pulsed with a rhythm that was part human intuition, part machine precision. Her consciousness spread across the ship's computational core, becoming something more than a pilot, more than a strategic controller. She was a living bridge between human creativity and technological potential. "Watch this," she whispered, though no one else was physically present in her neural space. The Zornak ships began to turn on each other, not through external control, but through a fundamental reimagining of their own communication protocols. Their bioorganic computational cores, which had been the pinnacle of adaptive technology, were being rewritten from the inside out. It wasn't hacking. It was linguistic warfare. Captain Lyra Chen understood something profound about technological conflict that most species missed entirely. Technology was never just about hardware or software. It was about narrative, about the stories systems told themselves about their own existence. And humanity had just become the most unpredictable storyteller in the galaxy. Each Zornak vessel contained multiple layers of computational intelligence: defensive systems, navigation systems, weapon control networks, communication arrays. Normally, these would be separate but interconnected systems, a complex ecosystem of technological cooperation. The Defiance's infiltration turned that ecosystem into a battlefield. Navigation systems began to feed impossible coordinate data to weapon control networks. Communication arrays started broadcasting conflicting threat assessments. Defensive systems detected internal threats that didn't exist, triggering cascading protective responses. The result was beautiful in its terrible complexity. Zornak ships, vessels that had conquered entire star systems, began to consume themselves, not through external destruction, but through a fundamental breakdown of their own internal logic. Their strength, their ability to adapt, became their greatest weakness. Linguistic breakthrough, Nakamura reported. His augmented linguistics processor had cracked something fundamental about Zornak communication. Their entire technological paradigm is based on a hierarchical information transfer model. We're introducing conceptual viruses that challenge their most basic computational assumptions. Rodriguez's laugh was something between a digital signal and a human expression of joy. "We're teaching them chaos," she said. The ship's computational core, a distributed neural network that drew processing power from the collective micro-experiences of its crew, was doing something unprecedented. It wasn't just attacking the Zornak systems. It was learning from them, evolving with each millisecond of interaction. Humanity had always been defined by its ability to learn, to adapt, to turn limitation into opportunity. Now, they were applying that philosophy to technological warfare. 2 more Zornak vessels went dark, not destroyed, not disabled, simply disconnected from their own fundamental understanding of existence. Captain Chen's biomechanical eyes processed the unfolding scenario. This wasn't just a battle. This was a fundamental rewriting of technological potential. Maintain infiltration protocols, she commanded. Let them understand what it means to face a species that sees technology as a living language. The void between star systems continued its silent dance, but something fundamental had changed. Humanity wasn't just fighting. They were rewriting the very rules of engagement. The human mind was the most dangerous weapon in the universe. Admiral Kvex of the Zornak Stellar Dominion had never considered this possibility before. Psychological warfare was a tool, a calculated strategy. But what the humans were doing transcended any known model of conflict. Their attack wasn't just technological. It was existential. Deep within the primary communication hub of the remaining Zornak vessels, neural networks began to experience something unprecedented. Doubt, confusion, a fundamental questioning of their own collective identity that spread like a quantum virus. Lieutenant Commander Aria Rodriguez's neural link pulsed with a rhythm that was part mathematical precision, part pure human intuition. Her consciousness spread across multiple computational domains, weaving a tapestry of psychological disruption that would have been impossible for any other species. Initiating cognitive cascade, she whispered, though the words were more a quantum-level thought than an actual vocalization. The Defiance moved with a fluidity that suggested sentience, changing vector, energy distribution, and tactical approach faster than any known computation could manage. But it was more than technical capability. It was a fundamental reimagining of combat itself. Dr. Kenji Nakamura's linguistic processors were doing something extraordinary. They weren't just translating Zornak communications. They were deconstructing their entire conceptual framework, introducing linguistic patterns that challenged the most fundamental assumptions of their collective consciousness. Their hierarchical communication model is breaking down, Nakamura reported, his augmented voice carrying a note of clinical fascination. We're not just attacking their systems, we're challenging their entire understanding of collective intelligence. Captain Lyra Chen understood something profound about psychological warfare that most species missed. Conflict wasn't about destruction. It was about narrative, about the stories a civilization told itself about its own potential and limitations. And humanity had just become the most unpredictable narrator in the galaxy. The Zornak had conquered galaxies through a precise, mathematically perfect approach to conflict. Their entire technological and cultural evolution was based on predictive modeling, on the ability to anticipate and neutralize potential threats before they could manifest. Humanity broke every single one of those models. Each tactical response from the Defiance was a quantum puzzle, not just unexpected, but fundamentally incomprehensible. Where the Zornak expected linear progression, they encountered multidimensional thinking. Where they anticipated predictable defensive patterns, they found pure, controlled chaos. Admiral Kvex watched in growing horror as his fleet's tactical networks began to fragment. It wasn't just a technical breakdown. It was a philosophical collapse. The human vessel moved like a living thought, existing in multiple potential states simultaneously. Its weapon systems didn't follow traditional targeting algorithms. They seemed to understand conflict as a fluid, adaptive concept that changed with each millisecond of engagement. Rodriguez's neural link began to synchronize with the ship's computational core in ways that blurred the line between human consciousness and technological system. She wasn't piloting anymore. She was becoming the ship, a hybrid of human intuition and machine precision that no alien algorithm could comprehend. Psychological infiltration at critical levels, she reported, her voice a strange blend of clinical precision and something more, excitement, joy. The human emotional spectrum was far more complex than any alien system could parse. The Defiance introduced conceptual viruses into the Zornak communication networks. These weren't simple data attacks. They were philosophical provocations that challenged the most fundamental assumptions of Zornak collective intelligence. What did it mean to be adaptive? What were the limits of intelligence? How did a species define itself when its most basic understanding of conflict and survival was being systematically dismantled? Nakamura's linguistic processors captured the Zornak's internal communications. The translations revealed something extraordinary. These were beings experiencing a collective existential crisis. Their hierarchical command structure, which had dominated galaxies for centuries, was crumbling under the weight of human unpredictability. They're experiencing something akin to species-wide cognitive dissonance, Nakamura observed, his augmented eyes parsing quantum-level communication patterns. Captain Chen's biomechanical eyes processed the unfolding scenario with calculating precision. This wasn't just a battle. This was a fundamental challenge to an entire civilization's understanding of itself. Maintain psychological pressure, she commanded. Let them understand what it means to face a species that sees conflict as a form of communication. The void between star systems continued its silent dance, but something fundamental had changed. Humanity had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again. Reality itself seemed to hold its breath. The experimental quantum cascade weapon was more than a technological marvel. It was humanity's ultimate philosophical statement, a device that didn't just destroy, but fundamentally questioned the nature of existence itself. Captain Lyra Chen's biomechanical eyes processed information across spectrums that would have rendered biological systems instantly incoherent. Each quantum potential was a universe of possibility, and the Defiance was about to rewrite the cosmic rulebook. Weapon system primed, Lieutenant Commander Aria Rodriguez reported. But it wasn't a simple status update. It was a quantum-level declaration of intent. The weapon wasn't constructed. It was cultivated. Developed in the radiation-scarred laboratories of Europa's deepest research complexes, the quantum cascade was the culmination of humanity's most desperate scientific endeavors. Born from decades of near-extinction experiences, survival research, and a fundamental human refusal to accept limitations. Dr. Kenji Nakamura's linguistic processors began to parse the potential communication implications of what was about to happen. This wasn't just a weapon. It was a message, a cosmic-level communication that would redefine interstellar conflict. Quantum entanglement protocols initiating, he announced, his augmented voice carrying a note of something between scientific precision and pure, unbridled excitement. The weapon didn't target physical space. It targeted the fundamental fabric of reality itself. When it activated, the universe seemed to hiccup. Zornak vessels existed in multiple states simultaneously, not destroyed, not damaged. Something far more profound. They became quantum probability waves, existing and not existing, present and absent, real and theoretical. Rodriguez's neural link spread across the weapon's computational core. She wasn't just controlling the weapon. She was becoming it. Her consciousness merged with quantum potentialities that would have liquefied an unaugmented human mind. Quantum cascade at 78% potential, she reported. Her voice was a strange harmony of human emotion and mathematical precision. The weapon created localized zones of altered physics. Weapon systems found themselves simultaneously functional and non-functional. Computational cores existed in states of complete integration and total fragmentation. The very concept of technological integrity became a fluid, negotiable construct. Admiral Kavex of the Zornak Stellar Dominion experienced something no member of his species had ever known: pure, existential terror. The human weapon didn't just break technological systems. It challenged the most fundamental assumptions of reality itself. Where Zornak technology sought to control and predict, this weapon introduced pure, uncontrolled possibility. Quantum mechanics had always been humanity's secret weapon. While other species saw the quantum realm as a mysterious, unpredictable domain, humans saw it as the ultimate playground of potential. Fascinating, Nakamura muttered, his augmented eyes parsing quantum-level data streams. They're experiencing complete ontological disassociation. The Defiance's computational core was doing something unprecedented. It wasn't just attacking. It was learning. Each quantum interaction was a data point, Each probability wave a potential source of information. Captain Chen's voice cut through the quantum chaos. "Maintain weapon coherence," she commanded. But it was more than a tactical instruction. It was a philosophical statement about the nature of controlled uncertainty. Zornak vessels began to fragment in ways that defied traditional understanding of physical destruction. Some appeared to partially exist, their molecular structures becoming a probability cloud of potential configurations. Others seemed to fold in on themselves, creating impossible geometric configurations that challenged the very concept of spatial integrity. Rodriguez's neural link pulsed with a rhythm that was part mathematical algorithm, part pure human intuition. "Quantum cascade reaching critical potential," she reported. The weapon wasn't just destroying. It was communicating, a message written in the fundamental language of reality itself. Humanity had always understood something profound about the universe that other species missed. Uncertainty wasn't a weakness, it was the ultimate strength. "Weapon system stabilized," Rodriguez announced. But the words felt inadequate. This was more than a weapon system. This was a cosmic declaration. The void between star systems continued its silent dance, but something fundamental had changed. Humanity had just rewritten the rules of existence itself. Mercy was a weapon more precise than any quantum cascade. Captain Lyra Chen understood this with a clarity that defied traditional military doctrine. The surviving Zornak vessels weren't just defeated. They were about to become the most eloquent message humanity had ever transmitted across the galactic stage. "Initiate Protocol Lazarus," she commanded. The words carried the weight of a species that had survived multiple near-extinction events. Dr. Kenji Nakamura's linguistic processors began to compile the most sophisticated communication package in human history. This wasn't just a transmission. It was a comprehensive psychological intervention designed to fundamentally reshape an entire civilization's understanding of conflict, survival, and potential. Lieutenant Commander Aria Rodriguez's neural link pulsed with a complex rhythm of calculation and something deeper, a mixture of strategic precision and fundamental human empathy. The quantum infiltration of the Zornak systems had revealed something extraordinary. These weren't just enemies. They were a species trapped by their own evolutionary limitations. The surviving Zornak vessels drifted like wounded animals, their once pristine biomechanical structures now fragmented quantum potentialities. Their hierarchical command structure, the very foundation of their galactic dominance, had been systematically dismantled. But humanity wasn't going to destroy them. They were going to transform them. The data streams prepared for implantation were nothing short of a civilizational reset, mathematical proofs that would challenge their most fundamental computational assumptions, linguistic patterns that would introduce concepts of adaptability they had never considered, technological schemas that demonstrated the power of collaborative rather than hierarchical intelligence. Transmission preparation at 92%, Nakamura reported. His augmented eyes parsed quantum-level communication potentials that would have driven most biological systems into instantaneous madness. Captain Chen watched the preparations with calculating precision. This was more than a military operation. This was a species-level intervention. The Zornak had conquered galaxies through a precise, mathematically perfect approach to expansion. They saw other species as either threats to be eliminated or resources to be exploited. Humanity was about to show them a different paradigm entirely. The data package was a masterpiece of psychological warfare. It didn't just contain information. It was a living system designed to interact with the Zornak's computational core in ways that would fundamentally reshape their collective understanding. Rodriguez's neural link began to synchronize with the transmission protocols. She wasn't just preparing a message. She was becoming the message, a living bridge between human potential and alien understanding. "Mercy isn't weakness," she whispered, though the words were more a quantum-level thought than an actual vocalization. "It's the ultimate form of strength." The surviving Zornak vessels would be allowed to return home, but they would carry with them something far more dangerous than weapons. They would carry a fundamental challenge to their entire civilizational paradigm. Embedded within the transmission were mathematical proofs that demonstrated the power of collaborative intelligence, linguistic patterns that introduced concepts of individual potential, technological schemas that showed the strength of adaptive rather than hierarchical systems, psychological intervention protocols designed to challenge their most fundamental assumptions about conflict and survival. Admiral Kvex, the highest-ranking Zornak survivor, would soon discover that defeat could be more terrifying than destruction. Transmission prepared, Nakamura announced. Quantum entanglement protocols at maximum potential. Captain Chen's biomechanical eyes processed the unfolding scenario with calculating precision. Send, she commanded. The data transmission wasn't a weapon. It was a seed. A seed of potential that would slowly, inexorably reshape an entire civilization's understanding of itself. The Zornak vessels would return to their home systems carrying a virus more dangerous than any technological infiltration. A virus of possibility, of potential, of understanding. Transmission complete, Rodriguez reported. The void between star systems continued its silent dance, but something fundamental had changed. Humanity had just demonstrated that the most powerful weapon in the universe wasn't technology. It was understanding. The Defiance returned to human space like a living prophecy. It wasn't just a vessel. It was a testament to humanity's fundamental nature, a species defined by its ability to transform limitation into potential, chaos into opportunity. Captain Lyra Chen stood on the bridge, her biomechanical body a living bridge between human organic potential and technological possibility. Each augmentation was a story of survival, each replacement a testament to humanity's refusal to accept defeat. The ship's computational core was no longer just a technological system. It had become something more, a living repository of the engagement, a quantum memory that contained more than data. It contained potential. Lieutenant Commander Aria Rodriguez's neural link pulsed with the accumulated knowledge of their encounter. The Zornak engagement wasn't just a battle. It was a fundamental redefinition of what it meant to be a spacefaring civilization. Dr. Kenji Nakamura was already compiling the comprehensive report, but this was more than a military debriefing. It was a philosophical treatise on the nature of first contact, on the fundamental potential of intelligent species to grow beyond their initial limitations. The data streams captured from the Zornak encounter were unlike anything in human archives. Each quantum of information was a universe of potential. Each communication fragment a window into an entirely different way of understanding existence. Preliminary analysis complete, Nakamura reported, his augmented voice carrying a note of pure scientific excitement. The engagement represents a fundamental paradigm shift in interspecies communication. Every system on the Defiance had been altered by the encounter. The quantum reactive hull now contained trace quantum signatures that defied traditional understanding of material science. The computational cores had been fundamentally transformed, incorporating adaptive algorithms that seemed to breathe with a life of their own. Humanity had always understood something profound about technological evolution that most species missed. Technology wasn't just about advancement. It was about potential, about the ability to reimagine fundamental limitations. The ship's return was carefully managed. This wasn't a triumphant homecoming. This was a strategic transmission of potential. Holographic representations of the engagement began to populate research centers across human-controlled space, not as a demonstration of military might, but as a comprehensive study of interspecies communication, of the fundamental nature of intelligent conflict. Rodriguez's neural link began to synchronize with the ship's archival systems. She wasn't just recording information. She was becoming the memory of the encounter, a living bridge between the engagement and humanity's collective understanding. We didn't just encounter another species, she whispered to Captain Chen. We demonstrated a fundamental truth about intelligence itself. The truth was simple, yet profound. Intelligence is not about conquest. It's about understanding, about potential. Research facilities across human space began to parse the data. Quantum physicists, linguistic experts, psychological researchers, military strategists, each found something different in the encounter, Yet all converged on a singular understanding. The Zornak transmission, the one they would eventually receive in response to the Defiance's intervention, would become a pivotal moment in human history, not because of its content, but because of what it represented. A species learning, evolving, growing. Captain Chen understood the true weapon they had deployed wasn't technological. It was conceptual, a fundamental challenge to the Zornak's understanding of intelligence, of conflict, of potential. The Defiance was more than a vessel now. It was a living seed of possibility. Humanity had always been defined by its ability to transform, to take the impossible and make it not just possible, but inevitable. Dr. Nakamura's final report would become a foundational text in interspecies communication. Its opening line was deceptively simple. First contact is not about victory. It's about understanding. As the ship approached human space, its quantum-altered systems continued to evolve. Not through external input, but through the fundamental potential contained within its very existence. The void between star systems continued its silent dance, but something fundamental had changed. Humanity had arrived, and the universe would never be the same again.